All right, so we're doing ankle tape now. Need a few more supplies. Get your pre-wrap. In the slides, it talks about, we call them heel and lace pads. They're just foam pads with skin lubricant in between, just Vaseline in between them. You're definitely going to want to use these. This helps prevent blisters. If you guys have ever been taped, you probably remember kind of a hot spot here and a hot spot kind of that develops on the top of your foot. So what we do with the heel and lace pads, spread that skin lube out a little bit. So we're going to stick one right here on their heel, and it protects the Achilles tendon from the tape digging in. And we're going to put one across the lace of essentially the shoe, but we call them heel and lace pads. Point your foot to. Inspect, do all that stuff, make sure they don't have any blisters, cover them if you see anything. Grab your pre-wrap. A couple different ways to hold it. You can either let the pre-wrap come off of the roll on the top, you're going to go like that, or you can let the pre-wrap come off the roll on the bottom. Whatever feels better to you. I like it coming off the top. So the tricks with the pre-wrap is you got to put some tension on it. This is probably one of the hardest parts for taping an ankle, is getting the pre-wrap to lay down. So what'll happen as you're putting the pre-wrap on, let me try and make it roll. I can't even make it do it. So if you see, okay, so if you try and pull it somewhere it doesn't want to go, I don't know if you can see that, but it rolls up on the end. Try not to let that happen, because that roll is going to create a pressure point. It could give them a blister. So try and keep that pre-wrap as flat as possible. And basically there's no right or wrong way. Just cover every square inch of skin. All the way, basically down to the middle of their foot. I went a little bit too low, but it's not going to matter. Make it as thin as possible too. You don't want a ton of pre-wrap on here. As far as how high to go, every athlete's going to be different. Some athletes have a calf, like their little calf up here. You can go a little bit higher with them. Some athletes have really low calves. You want to go as high up the leg as possible, but you don't want to get into the calf muscle. So you can see where her calf muscle starts, kind of right here. Don't go past that. You may have to keep a little pressure on that pre-wrap so it doesn't unroll. For the ankle, you've got to have them pull their toes to them. You want their foot to be in a 90-degree angle. So if you were to measure this angle, it should be about 90 degrees. Some athletes have a lot of ankle, what we call dorsiflexion. You don't want them to be all the way up here like this. That's too much. You want them to be right at neutral. And the reason for that is the ankle joint itself is more stable in this position. So if you were to tape them in this position, the foot is really unstable or kind of floppy in that. And so again, we're trying to prevent that medial ankle sprain. I'm sure you guys have all experienced one. So what we're trying to do is prevent the foot from rolling in. So we're going to try and lock that foot out in a neutral position. Get your full strips. We're going to put an anchor across the top, and hopefully you can see this. So with the turf toe, we did perpendicular to the leg. When you're doing an ankle, you kind of have to change the angle a little bit. Her leg is not straight up and down. It tapers. It's wider at the top and narrower at the bottom. So you have to adjust your angle of your tape to make it lay down flat. Stick it all the way around. Try and make sure it's laying down flat in the back. So one anchor. Pull your foot to. You got to remind them. They get lazy. And they forget. They get to talking. Athletes know, if you just tap their foot, they know, oh, I got to pull my foot to me. So 2 anchor strips. Then we're going to go into what's called stirrups. The stirrups are going to go on, they always go medial to lateral. So always start on the inside of the ankle, go right over that medial malleolus, right under the heel bone. Try not to get your stirrups up here in the arch. That is not comfortable. So get it right under the heel bone. Put some tension on that thing. So you can see when I put tension on it, what's it do? It pulls her foot out. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to lock her foot into what we call an everted position so it doesn't roll in. Stick it down good. Keep it nice and smooth. Make sure they're still pulling. So we're gonna do 3 stirrups, medial to lateral. You have to go medial to lateral. So I like to put a couple stirrups, and then I'll put another strip around. Again, overlapping by half. Work your way down the foot as you're doing these. Last stirrup. Pull on that thing. That's what I see most of you guys doing wrong, is you don't put enough tension on the tape. You got to pull on that tape. So we got 3 stirrups. Now we're going to continue to work our way down the foot. And make sure you can still see good. Yeah, that's good. Overlapping by half. So you notice at the top, her leg tapers this way. It gets to a certain point and then it starts tapering back out. That's where you're gonna change the angle. So you go from this angle up high to straight across to the opposite angle once you get down here. So whatever you can do to try and make that tape lay flat in the back. So we've got our 3 stirrups. We're pretty much covered here. From here, I will do what's called C-strips. So you're just basically going from one stirrup back to the other stirrup. You don't even go all the way around. What this is for is just to kind of put a little layer of tape back here on the Achilles and kind of protect it. So a couple C-strips. Make sure they're still in good position. Now from here, we're gonna do heel locks. These are gonna be the hardest part. The heel locks, we're gonna do 2 on each side, and they're gonna go opposite directions. So I start at basically a 45-degree angle on the bottom of their shin bone. Stick it down, pull your little strip off. We're gonna go above the lateral malleolus, or that bone on the outside of the ankle. We're gonna hook the heel and then come back under the foot. Keep your leg strong. And then you're gonna end up right back where you started. Try and make sure it's flat, nice and smooth. Kind of clean it up as you go. We're just gonna go the opposite way. So 45 degrees, right across the bottom of the shin bone. We're gonna go in the back, over the Achilles. We're gonna hook the heel, put some tension on that thing, under the foot, back to where you started. So now we have 1 on each side. We're gonna do 2 total on each side. So switch the other direction. What I see most of you guys do, or newbies doing, is they start too high. Really kind of get down here, pull your foot too. Get down here, right, almost in that crease. Stick it, go over their Achilles, hook the heel, and come under the foot. Right back to where you started. 1 more going the opposite way, and we'll have 2 on each side. So hook the heel, try and keep that tape flat, especially as it comes across the bottom of the foot. Right back to where you started. So just to recap, two anchors, 3 stirrups, some C-strips, 4 heel locks, and then we're gonna do 2 figure 8s. Keep pulling. All a figure 8 is you're gonna go down a little bit lower, about right here where there's no tape. You're gonna do a loop around the foot, back to where you started, directly into a loop around the leg, back to where you started. So it looks like, it's called a figure 8 because there's a loop around the foot, loop around the leg, looks like an 8. Let me get a roll of tape. I'm gonna do 2 of those. Loop around the foot. Now you're back to where you started. Loop around the leg, back to where you started. So that's all of your structural, like support strips. Once you get this far, basically just covering it up, making it look pretty. Go back to where you started. Work your way down, overlapping by half, keeping it clean. Make sure you're laying down flat there. If you have your angle wrong here, I can't even make it do it. If you have your angle wrong, you're gonna get loose spots back here, it's gonna create blisters. So covering it back up. So you can see how tight it is. Everything's nice and smooth, secure. It's actually kind of, I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of smashing her skin a little bit. It's a good way to know that it's tight enough. Some athletes are going to like it even tighter. Some are going to like it more loose. You'll get to know your athletes a little bit and kind of know what they like, and kind of adapt it to their comfort. So when you're cutting these off, make sure and use those scissors that I gave you. In the slides, there's a picture of an athlete that cut themselves somehow. Make sure you're using these safety scissors so you don't gouge your leg.